How's everybody doing today? We started off with podcast 13. It's been a while since we got on here, but we wanted to do one before turkey season. And today I've got a friend. We're actually on the road, so we're not in the studio. We're on the road. I drove up to hang out with Sean Maloy, and we wanted to do a podcast to kind of cover some of the questions that we get asked about filming, self-filming, the products we use, the gear we use, maybe some of the tips that can help everybody out there. Like I said, I get this type of stuff all the time, and so I've known Sean for a while. He self-films. I've asked him a ton of questions on the gear and the software and stuff like that. And we kind of bounce off each other, and so I felt like he probably had a good group of people that were asking some of the same questions. And so I got with him and drove up here and decided that we'd do a podcast together. So without any further ado, this is Sean Maloy. Sean, why don't you introduce yourself?
What's going on, folks? Sean Maloy here. And Shane, welcome to Patriots Landing.
Yes.
It's been a while since you've been up here.
It has.
It's been a long while, actually. It's been a couple of years, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm Sean Maloy, and I live here at Patriots Landing. Some people call me Big Daddy. Sometimes on my films, you'll see that Big Daddy Sean Maloy coming to you from Patriots Landing. But it's good to have you up here.
Thanks, man.
And it's good to share some knowledge because I know that's what you like to do with not only your hunting videos and your podcast and helping people get some good knowledge that they could use and hook up with some people that can help them too.
Absolutely.
So I'm real excited about talking about self-filming and just sharing that with everybody.
Cool. So I guess, right off the gate, I'll just say, for me, we'll talk about, what got us into it. I mean, for me, it was kind of, I kind of enjoyed the hunting to an extent that I really just, obviously it was a big craze of filming and shows and everything like that. And I really just wanted to get into it. And I was like, I'm watching these other people, it's one of those things. I say crazy stuff. I'm funny, I should do that too. And then from there, you really start to hone in your skills when it comes to the camera equipment and the editing and stuff. And then it grows into a whole nother animal. And to be honest with you, I'm at a point now, I don't think that I could go out in the woods without a camera. I mean, I feel like I feel like I'm doing something wrong when I don't have a camera. I feel like the situation of a lifetime is going to happen, and I'm not going to have a way to film it. And so, like I said, kind of what got me started was just kind of watching other people do it. And the bad thing is, the people I was watching, they weren't self-filming. Majority of them weren't. But in today's age with YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and everything like that, there's a way for us to get our name out there and share information and let people enjoy our footage and stuff. And so I just kind of took it on that level, and I've enjoyed it. It's grown into what it is today. We missed the Dixie Deer Classic this year, but it was something we would get together with a lot of other people and a lot of people from around the country, and would just talk and hang out and film. But what got you into self-filming or filming at all? What got you into filming at all?
Well, it kind of goes back to what got me into hunting. When I was finishing up my career, I spent some time out in Missouri at Fort Leonard Wood, and my brother-in-law introduced me to bow hunting.
Okay.
Out there. And 2 years later, after spending a few weekends with him while I was training out there, I ended up buying this farm. That's how bad. I went from I was hunting two-legged animals to hunting deer,
right,
and buying a farm in 2 years. My whole life plan changed with the purchase of this property.
That's awesome.
And at the time, both my sons were still in the military. One of them still is. My wife is still on active duty. And when I retired, I was up here pretty much alone with me and my dog. And I was looking for a way to share my experiences with my family.
There you go.
That was separated from us, either on deployment or working in other parts of the state or country. And so, having a farm and this whole experience has been pretty magical in a lot of ways. And I wanted to be able to share that magic with family and friends. And that's really how it started.
I got you. That's a cool way to start. I mean, so 2 years, you were just like, in 2 years, you went from hold tight. Let me back up. So in 2 years, you literally went from I'm in the military to I'm gonna bow hunt. I love bow hunting so much. I'm looking for a farm. I have now purchased a farm. Literally.
Literally.
That's awesome. That's
And,
awesome.
and what got me was, well, to, the bow hunting really wasn't bow hunting with my brother-in-law.
Right.
He's an avid bow hunter,
Okay.
and I'm out there with him and my sister-in-law, and I'm shooting her bow. I hadn't shot a bow since Boy Scouts, right? So,
Right.
Anyway, it was very relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
Just shooting the bow and it's kind of like golf. Guys will go to the driving range and drive some golf balls, and it's relaxing. Well, shooting the bow was kind of relaxing, and I had no intent to hunt, but I went and bought a bow, and I was pretty good at it. And then I was like, well, maybe I want to go hunting.
Right.
So
would you say it would be considered maybe your release? Was that
could be? It could be. And I was in the South, by the way.
nice?
Well, to make a long story short, I self-taught myself to hunt. Of course, I called my brother-in-law, got some pointers. On my first deer hunt with a lone wolf climber and a Matthew Z7 that's in that closet over there in that room we were looking at earlier, I shot a doe, and I still remember as plain as day. Everybody remembers their first kill. Double lung, mist in the morning, there's fog, and the blood is whoosh, whoosh, she's running off. And I was so hooked.
Yeah.
I was so hooked. And from there, we really got into hunting. My wife as well, she come from a hunting family, and we weren't hunting together, of course, when we met and got married.
Right.
So we joined a hunt club in Wilson, North Carolina, and that's where we went up and hunted. And then later on, within a year, my whole life changed to I want a place to hunt. And then by God's grace, we came across this property with a house on it, and the rest is history.
Awesome.
Patriots Landing was formed.
Fantastic. So then you were saying that you actually got into the filming part just to kind of share some of your stories while you were up here alone, just to kind of be able to share what was going on.
Yeah, because you've seen my stuff on Facebook, stupid stuff, pictures of four-leaf clovers and blossoms on trees and wildflowers and frogs and snakes and turtles and other critters. And I've got a strong photography background.
I was going to talk about that.
And so I kind of have an eye for photography. So making the leap to videography was pretty simple.
Right.
It's just learning a new skill set of type of equipment, and then the editing software, and then you have sound as well.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. It was a challenging thing for me to keep my mind going, but it just kind of grew from that. And then I wanted to film hunts and share those experiences.
Well, and if you're like me, you kind of I find that the more challenging something is, the more I want to take it on. So it's like the more somebody says, "Oh, you can," or it seems like it's something that is foreign to me, the more I'm like, I'm going to conquer this. I'm going to figure it out. I want to do it. I'm still trying. I am no way, I'm maybe one step above a noob, you know what I'm saying? But still,
I wouldn't say that.
There's a lot of
yourself credit.
Well, there's a lot of steps that happen as a noob and that's why I wanted to do this, is because I made a lot of mistakes along the way that I had no idea I was making until
you and me both.
I went back and started looking at the footage and listening and watching. I was like, oh God, but the hunt in my mind, it was fantastic. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? And so that was kind of why we wanted to talk about this. So before we get into the gear, I could tell you, we're probably on the same page, but what's your favorite part about self-filming, and what's your favorite thing to self-film?
I like to self-film everything here at the farm, and the hunting is just something we do here as well. So I self-film. I've got videos of me calibrating my drill, working on my tractor, planting crops, doing soil samples to educate people. It's really the lifestyle that I'm living now that I'm filming. Hunting is just part of it.
Got you. Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess, and I probably should take on more of that. I've thought about taking it to the next level, but given my work and my home life, I try not to include too much of that. But I will say that, for me, I like, obviously deer is going to be my number one passion. Past that, I like to film offshore fishing is fantastic. The turkeys, it's a love-hate relationship because I'm going to tell you right now with turkeys, their vision is so good that these cameras, they throw glares. You go moving them around. It's like having a camera with you filming a turkey is almost like having a third person with you. And so when there's a lot of times you could be still, you find yourself wanting to move the least little bit, and it's just a no-go for turkey. So deer I find probably more enjoyable because I think I figured them out a little bit easier. You know what I mean? But turkeys is definitely something that has intrigued me, and I love it every year. Not the best turkey hunter, but I love getting out there and doing it nevertheless. So
yeah, I think they say that bow hunting's hard, but then when you start filming a bow hunt, you're doubling your effort because there's a lot of movement.
For sure.
And I both have had camera arms. I very rarely use a camera arm these days because of my new techniques I'm learning. But moving that camera arm to get in position, then drawing your bow on a deer that's 20 yards from you, that's a lot of challenge. And many a deer have been missed either by shot or by opportunity by movement.
Yeah, for sure.
In the tree stand, turkey hunting is just like you said, turkeys have great eyes, and they can catch movement. So a lot of turkey hunts that are filmed, if they're not filmed by a third party with you, then you're looking at maybe a ground blind, filming out of a blind to block some of that movement,
Sure.
or having stuff mounted on the weapon of your choice, whether it's a bow or a gun.
Yes.
To film that, and there's different techniques to create the story that you want to do. But the killing of the animal, the harvesting of the animal, is really the 10% of the story that I try to do.
Right.
If you watch any of my silly videos, there is a story behind it, and that's what we like about this room that you have in here. And I tell my wife all the time, when I'm dead and gone, my grandsons and the family can come into this room and they can look at this raccoon behind me, which I shot this year.
Yeah.
And the fox I shot a couple of years ago is behind you, and deer and turkey on the walls. They can plug in the computer over here and watch the video of the hunt for this animal.
Correct.
And the history of this animal with this farm. And that's, to me, that's powerful. That's a legacy.
It is, and I'll say that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made starting off. Was I was like, if you don't have the kill shot, there's no video. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have this, there's no video. And there's been many a times that I have thrown footage away. As crazy as that sounds, I've thrown it away specifically because everything was there except for the actual kill shot, and TV had kind of.
That's right.
Made me think
that
I had to have that kill shot, when really once I started talking about it, once I got into it, and if you look back on it and looking at what I'm doing and how I'm doing it now, like you said, that's the smallest part of it. And so as long as you've got a build up and a story to start off with, and as long as you've got some, now don't get it twisted. Jason doubled up on a doe this year. The footage was fantastic. His son shot a turkey that come in and just tore up the decoys, and the footage was fantastic. But and that's some of the best one. I mean, my deer this year, which was a kill shot, but shy of because of the placement. It's one of those things that was the smallest part. Everybody liked the video because there was concern in my voice for the placement of the shot. There was, the tracking the deer down, the story behind where the deer went, everything like that. And so there was a lot more to it, and I think people gravitated towards the story. And I used to get so caught up in the thought of I have to have the kill shot. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing, because it is. And when you're editing stuff together, it does kind of tie stuff together, and kind of bring everything together. And then if you're hunting deer and stuff, placement. I don't know how many times. I mean, that deer this year, I thought for sure I just smoked this deer, and I looked back at the footage and I was like, ugh. You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
we've all been there if you're bow hunting.
Oh yeah. But if I had not had that, I would have just I'd have waited 2 hours. I'd have went tramping through the woods. I may have jumped in, may have run him off, run him 2 counties over, and by letting him lay overnight, by looking back at it, I realized I need to just leave this deer alone. But
I think you bring up the big thing is the pressure.
Oh yeah.
of who's going to watch your video, and you know, guys that are doing it professionally, they are under pressure to kill an animal and get it on film, good coverage of it. But I think that's where the mistake is with some folks like me and you, that you start out with too high of expectation of the end product.
Yeah.
And just like you're saying, the story is far much more important than the harvested animal or the type of animal that you're harvesting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, people laugh at me about this possum, or I got the possum up there, but the raccoon behind me. I've got some small 3-year-old bucks over here too that I've harvested, but the effort to get to those deer were just as challenging as the big deer on the wall. And,
oh yeah.
And to me, the story is for me. It's not necessarily for y'all out there in video land. It's for me and it's for my family, and it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be all that, but I do try to make it entertaining.
For sure.
And that's,
you go overboard sometimes. You keep
I do.
keeps us on the edge. I will say that
I like keeping everybody on edge.
Speaking of the raccoon, so the raccoon, so Sean is part of a group, a small group of North Carolina deer hunters. We keep it small on purpose.
The Purge.
And the Purge, yeah. And so and it's a Facebook group, and I've even spoke about this, getting people together. And so I think you're the first one that, other than Jason, this actually no, we've had a couple more. So nevertheless, being on the podcast, I remember this raccoon. I remember when you killed it and you were like, but see, he's got a bad thing about, he wants to keep everybody waiting.
In suspense.
Right. And so he was like, oh, there's blood. There's an arrow with blood on it.
That's right. You heard the shot.
Yeah.
But you didn't see what I shot.
And and the thing is like, this group is like, usually for the most part, we don't care what you harvest or not. Nobody ever is like going to judge you over that. That being said, there's some in the group, we know when a shot's made, you immediately are like, all right, this is going to be good. I can't wait to see what this is. People are looking, people are tagging. I want to see what this is. Can't wait to watch the video. And this joker keeps us, it is like 24, 48 hours going.
It takes that long to produce.
On a raccoon, man. I mean, so I was like, but it was fun. It was all in good fun. And like you were saying, the videos, they're for you. We joke about it and everything like that. But at the end of the day, and I think that's something else too that I see a lot of people getting caught up with, whether they're either trying to be YouTube famous or they're looking for sponsors, or they lose the passion of doing what they're doing for them. And then when you do that, it all reflects on everything that you do, and because you're trying to force something. You know what I'm saying? I
agree, and I about got wrapped up into that myself. And then I was like, why am I trying to go to that level when that's not what I want to do?
Right.
And then I reverted back to my family. The whole reason we bought this farm is to have family memories.
For sure.
And if the family can't be here, I'm going to make memories for them, and then when they do come here, we'll make memories together.
And I think that for the most part, I think that a lot of people can see that in the videos. They can see your passion, and they can see, and then they connect with it. And to be honest with you, that's what I feel like. I could be way off, and y'all comment below if I am. Just be like, nah, man, we don't care nothing about that. Show me the kill shot. But I feel like people, when they see others happy, for the most part, most of the people, especially in the hunting and the outdoor industry, they want to see people succeed. They want to see your happiness. I could show you my sadness and me failing, and the bad thing is the bulk of the people would feel that as well, and they'd be like, I've been there. You know what I mean? That the idea of shooting that deer and it not being in the best place, I think some people halfway through the video is like, I really hope he finds this deer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
yeah, there's emotional connection with those types on both sides, whether it's a elation or sadness.
Correct. So, and I think that when you connect that, when you're filming, that's why, to kind of bring it back to on topic, that was why it's best to tell the story, regardless of what it is. Don't get caught up in needing a kill shot. Don't get caught up in needing the best footage, or don't get caught up in, what you think or what the TV or what, your professional personalities have brought you to believe is important. Don't get caught up in that. Do what you enjoy. Share good times, whether it's good or bad or whatever. Share your outdoor experience, and then people will gravitate to that because they'll appreciate you just sharing your experience. Because I think a lot of people want to know, even for mess ups. I think a lot of people have questions. I mean, for the most part, if you've tuned into this, or if you read the title of it and you're listening to it, truth be told, you're looking for something, right? You've made those mistakes, or you're looking for a tip, or, you're looking for something, some sort of help. Not saying that we're experts, not saying that I can help you. I'm definitely not, the people that work for Bone Collector, I'm not on that caliber. I'm not running a $40,000 camera, and we're not packing it out in Colorado on a paid hunt where I'm going to kill the biggest, 8x8, elk that you've ever seen. It's just, that's not what we do. But that being said, I've made a lot of mistakes, and so I'm willing to share those, and I'm willing to, in hopes that you don't have to make them as well. So with all that being said, what I will say is, let's get into some of this gear.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start from very basic.
Let's start from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. Let's start from wherever what got you started into filming in the outdoors.
Well, the first level of filming that pretty much anybody can do. Is with a trail camera.
This gets overlooked a lot. It really does.
Everybody uses them. They come in all shapes, sizes, and models, and expenses, and battery life, and all that other happy stuff. But when you own a piece of property, you manage a piece of property, or even you got a backyard with some squirrels, you put up a trail camera, you're going to catch a story that those animals are going to tell without you having to do anything.
Correct.
And this is all going to tie into this fox behind you, what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't on a fox hunt when I killed this fox. I was on a deer hunt. But I've always wanted a red fox. And if you watch that video, there's a lot of footage of that fox running around the farm doing funny things from all the cameras that I had out.
For sure.
And I used those to tell the story of the fox and how he interacted with the deer and the trophy rock.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
And that became the basis for the Trophy Rock Affair, a foxtail. And then that fox presented itself on opening day of fox season of all days.
Perfect.
He grabs a rabbit and goes sits on the stump, and I make the second best bow shot I've ever made on this fox right here.
Right. Awesome.
And, but the trail camera is a good way to start filming your story, because you set up a trail camera in the right spots, it will catch you coming and going from your stand.
Correct.
And on your property.
It can be utilized in a lot of different ways, whether it's if you've got a trophy rock, or you're putting out food, or if it's on a food plot or whatever, you can take and compile those videos or those pictures into a time lapse, so to speak, if you wanted to, or if it's on video, you can use that video in your video as well. And a lot of people already have this.
That's right.
They already have it. They don't even think about it. They immediately think, I need to go buy this video camera, and they forget that they've already got one that can do a lot of stuff. So that's a really good point. I didn't think about that.
And so here's the second mistake people do when they have a camera. They pull the card, and then they go through the images, and they throw them all away.
Correct.
And I don't. I have external hard drives. Every picture.
Yeah.
And because you just never know that somewhere 2 years ago, the deer you just shot, you've got pictures of that deer when he was a 2.5, 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And then you can make a great story by just trail cam photos, even if you don't have video. Yeah. Because you can do zooming in and zooming out on pictures.
Add some music and
add
stuff.
A little music, and you see that a lot. It's
a good transition.
But the trail cameras, again, technology has really come a long way. You can get good trail cameras at a very good price, and you get used ones sometimes that are just as technology goes, people are upgrading and they sell stuff. But the thing I would tell you, if you're looking at filming, I always look for cameras that give me 1080p.
Yep. 60 frames.
60. Well, most of them are going to be 20 to 30 frames per second. But it's more that I'm getting large enough quality to use in a video. Right. If I'm doing a 1080p video or scaled down to a 720. at the least. I don't need 4K. You know, I'm not going to load that up here at Patriots Landing. We can barely have internet. You know, so all of my stuff is 1080p at the most of it 720. But a good camera that has pretty decent video, but also has great sound. So So when I'm buying cameras, that's probably more important to me than trigger speed. I'm looking at what the video capability is.
Right.
And that's very important. And I've used all kinds of cameras. I'm all the time upgrading to different ones that, you know, this is a Bushnell. It does really good. It's inexpensive. And then I've got some Recon-X that are, you know, more expensive, but the video quality and sound quality is superb on them.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's just, but again, it's high end. I wouldn't say low end, but, you know, price wise, they do the same thing. It's just what you are willing to put into it and what you can put into it. But
And
trail cameras is a good start.
And like I said, it's holding on to that footage. Now I know, like you're able to think about and you've got the hard drives and stuff, but even so much as with just a trophy, but the deer you're after, whatever that may be, the deer that you're actually after for that season, you might not catch up with him until you might start having pictures of him midsummer. You might not catch up with him until November. Even if you save the pictures where he's in there, or if there's, you know, a particular deer, regardless, it could be a doe or whatever. If you know one or can tell this group apart, you can start following that. It's a great way to keep up with that footage and use it, like I said, for filler stuff or any of the little, you know, just stuff to transition from one scene to another. That's a great thing. Another thing that I guess that's beginner for you. I would say one thing a lot of people forget about is their phones. Everybody's got a phone nowadays. Everybody's got a phone. And then the number one thing that they do wrong is that they film like this. Yeah, and if you could turn it sideways, you can have it set up to where it will shoot. Most of them nowadays will shoot in 1080 60 frames. You turn it sideways and you've almost got a professional camera right there in your hands, and the audio is usually pretty good. And they make a lot of stuff now where you can really trick them out, but I don't think it's worth overthinking. I think a lot of times just that readiness of having that camera out, whether it's you're going to go track a deer or you're going to retrieve one or you're going to the stand or something, you don't feel like turning the other action cameras on or whatever. That's in your pocket. 9 times out of 10, it's there. You can get to it readily available and you can use it, and that type of footage goes a long ways. And people think that they've got to have something else, and you'd be surprised how many videos you're watching that you absolutely love that was filmed on an iPhone. So don't overlook that either.
Yeah, I use iPhone for a lot of B-roll in the tree stand, you know, to get leaves or, you know, birds and sometimes I've had deer or animals right underneath me and I couldn't get, you know, I just pull out my phone and I tap it and I'm recording them right there. Sure. And then, of course, the all infamous selfie cam, you know, so now you can whip that thing out and do a little interview of you up in the tree or walking into a turkey blind or whatever it is you're doing.
And time lapse, I love it. And most of the phones now have the time lapse feature built in. So, I mean, it compiles it. You literally hit start, leave it alone. You don't have to do anything else with it. I mean, it compiles it all for you, which is if you do a time lapse with the trail cam, you're going to have to compile that yourself, which goes through software and is a little bit more work, but nevertheless, nothing too crazy.
And what's the number one issue people have with using cell phones in the field?
The number one issue? Probably battery life.
You're exactly right. You know, so that brings me to the next item that everyone in the field, whether you're filming or not, should have is an external battery. I've got a handful of these. These are by a company called Dark Energy. Mm-hmm. I'm not sponsored, by the way, but Dark Energy, you can send me some if you like. Yeah, right. But, you know, these things will, they've got USB outs. They got 2, and I can charge a phone, and I can also have a dedicated line to a camera, like a GoPro.
Yep.
So I can leave that GoPro running all the time
and then not miss anything.
That's
and
right.
Not have to worry about it.
Especially last light. I'll turn it on the last hour and just let it roll.
There you go. And that's when a lot of that stuff happens. In fact, right now, the camera that is running to film this has one of those hooked up to it so that it doesn't die during the filming of the podcast. So.
And they come in different sizes. This one is for like a tripod extender.
Gotcha.
and it's got a battery input right here,
like
and
it.
it's got another head on it, so you can put your camera mount on top of that.
Cool.
So it's just another. There's different ones for different applications that I've picked up over time that I use for different cameras.
All right. So then after that, I would think the next thing would be probably just the good old fashioned action camera.
Yeah, and I started out with an action camera that wasn't designed for hunting. It's made by a company called Drift Technologies, and this is it.
That's actually one of the Drift makes a really good action cam. In fact, now I think they're still a little overlooked, but they make a fantastic action cam. I think the Drift 2 is out now.
Yeah, they got the Drift HD, the Drift Ghost. There's a handful of them.
That's what it is.
The issue with the Drift, it's totally like 170.
Right. It is fisheye the entire time.
But there is a company, and I've done a lot of filming and research because I like the small, but there's a company called Rage Cams. Nothing to do with Rage Broadheads, by the way, and it's not run by Matthew Rage, and we just saw him earlier. But they actually make replacement lenses that you can buy to get rid of fisheye and have a more standard lens. And I ordered one of those, and you just install it yourself. And some of my earliest hunts were taken with this camera alone.
For sure.
Because that's all I had was trail cameras and this camera and a phone type camera, but it wasn't a phone. It was just a little Kodak pull out type of thing. They don't make them anymore. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But this was my first action camera, and it's kind of since retired. It still works, but I didn't use it at all this year.
No, you never can tell.
You never can tell. I don't throw anything away because it could be used for something else later.
Absolutely.
Maybe one of my grandsons or something.
There you go. For the youngins that are trying to get into it, turn them loose. Give them something that they can tear up and turn them loose.
That's right. That's right. Then we've got Tacticam. I've got a Tacticam here. It's on a Picatinny mount, and I can mount this on my bow. Yeah. And I can also mount it on my shotgun.
Now, I don't know enough about Tacticam. So that's the 4.0. Do they still put Tacticam? Is it like tattooed into the footage of everything?
There is a setting
that you can take it off.
You go into the camera software.
Okay.
On your computer, and you can actually turn the logo on or off.
Okay.
So with any of these cameras, as you start using them, they have limitations and they have capabilities. Correct. And they've got things, little nuances. But the good thing about the internet is you can find anything and everything out.
For sure.
About how to set these up. Or if not, you can call Shane because he knows it all.
Call me.
But the Tacticam, I really like it for putting on my gun. Mm-hmm.
It's a great point. It's a great action cam to put on anything, and they're built to take a whooping. So I mean, it's one of those things that
the turkey that's not in this room yet that I killed last year was killed with a shotgun with the Tacticam on it. Okay. And the footage for that video is online now.
Okay. And I'll link Sean's thing
my YouTube
channel. Yeah. And then y'all can go check all his stuff out.
And then you can see what cameras and angles were used, and so I like this on the shotgun. Occasionally I've gone dog hunting. And have that. And I put this on the shotgun.
Readily available. And I think now it's on the side. So you can just reach up, hit record.
That's it.
And go to town. So, and I like that. I like the one push record. And that's one thing I find that, GoPro has a one push record, but once you hook up like an external mic and stuff, it starts to take away from that. It won't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. I've had good luck, bad luck, but I will say that I like that idea and I like that simplicity because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to get some of those quicker. And like you were saying, for the dog hunt, we got a lot of people that dog hunt, and then a lot of people that are maybe duck hunting and using shotguns and turkeys.
And it's good for bow hunting too. I mean, I'm mounted on. I've got a rail on my above my bow stabilizer. Yeah, put this thing right on there.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on, and we had spoke about it prior to the podcast, is when you're using these action cameras, I find a lot of people are like, they go out and they get a GoPro or a Tacticam or something like that, and then sticking on a rifle and trying to take a 150 yard shot. Now with the quality, you can on the software zoom in, but the closer in you get, the grainier it gets, and then the smaller action cams do not do the best in low light. They just don't have the sensor to pick up that light, so they just do not do the best in low light situations. That being said, they can capture a lot of cool stuff, and it can go a long way. So I guess from there, Sean wants to move over to a small low light camera. I'm assuming that's where you're going.
I am.
All right, what you got?
That's a good segue.
Yeah, you go. There you go.
Yeah, we didn't plan that, by the way.
No.
Being a bow hunter, most of our hunting is taking place at last light.
Correct.
And if you're hunting a field edge, last light, sometimes you have good light.
Oh yeah.
But if you're in the timber like I am here, last light, this camera, the Tacticam, and even my GoPros, because I do use GoPros, at about 40 minutes before last shooting light,
they're done. It's shot.
They're dark.
Yeah.
So I was looking for a camera that was mobile and packable, and not something like this or this camera we'll talk about in a little bit.
Right.
And I came across the Aurora by Psionics.
Okay, I remember you telling me about that.
And I have a video that compares this with the Tacticam, and it's just low light performance.
Right.
This camera has its place. I love it in daylight. It works good. It's got good image stabilization. I like the ease and simplicity. This one's not as simple to use. You got to turn it on, then you got to hit start and whatnot. But this has a 1-inch sensor in it.
Okay.
And it's an infrared color night vision camera.
Okay.
People, they make mounts for you to mount this on and with your scope in front for night.
Oh, okay.
For night hunting,
to be able to film.
Yeah, you film your hog hunt or
I got you.
Dog hunt, whatever you're doing with the hunting predators. Because it's IR, you put an IR light out there, and it's just going to light up like Christmas. But this camera has three settings. It's got a daylight setting, a twilight setting, and then a dark setting, night setting. And in twilight, at 30 minutes past last shooting light, it still looks like daylight to this thing.
Right.
So from a filming perspective, if I shoot something right before last light, I'm going to get good 720p. So that's the limitation. It's 720p.
Okay.
And it's going to be very usable footage. Now, this is a very expensive tool to use just for 30 minutes.
Well, and like I already saying, that was something I wanted to kind of touch on as we're going up once you get outside the action cams. And to be honest with you, it's not like action cams are cheap. I mean, they've gotten to the point where a brand new GoPro, I want to say, is like what, $400, $500 now?
The Max, the 360 we'll talk about, that one's well over, it's over 500, I believe.
Yeah, so I mean, we're starting to, as like we said, as we started off with the lower end of the price wise. That doesn't mean that the quality's not there, because even with the GoPros and the smaller ones, now they're not great for lower light, and depending on what you're doing, they might not be the best. But I will say, for the most part, turkey season is the action camera's time to shine.
That's right.
Turkeys aren't going to come they're not going to come off the roost until it's good and light. I mean, I tell everybody, a turkey's the only goal in life is to stay alive. It's got a brain the size of a pea, and it is just scared of everything. So that's why it's like, it's dumb. A turkey is a very dumb animal. That being said, they can spot movement from a mile away. And maybe sometimes especially in me, I'm a bigger dumb animal. So, I'm fidgety and I want to move, and they freak out. And so, but the action camera is perfect for turkey hunting because multiple reasons. They've got to be close to shoot a turkey with a shotgun. I know with the TSS and some of the other loads, you can get a little bit further away, but for the most part, they need to be closer. And they're going to be in broad daylight, whether it's in the morning or in the evening or whatever. Chances are them being out in that low light situation is slim. So deer, it seems like especially the mature ones and stuff, now you can always catch them in the rut and stuff walking around like a madman in the middle of the day. but for the most part, their movement's going to be that first hour. That first 30 minutes of shooting light, and maybe the first hour of shooting light, and then that last hour of shooting light. And that's been in my experience. I know a bunch of people that have woken up late, rolled into camp, got in the daggone stand at 9 o'clock, shot a deer at 9:15. It's just never been my experience. So,
well, the other thing about this is dual purpose. Not only can you use it for hunting, but if I'm hunting a food plot and I'm getting ready to get down and it's dark,
you can check it out.
I can check and see what's out there and make my escape if I need to.
Well, and even if you catch, maybe you catch the hunt or something on during daylight with some of the other cameras, that's a great tool that you can use to catch you coming down, you going to get the deer and stuff like that. I pack a little it's like a Lumicube light. It's about the size of a credit card, and I use it on my camera. But not everybody has that, and so it's not necessarily a camera that's only good for 30 minutes. It's dual purpose if you use them to the fullest. So, so next I would say probably. So yeah, let's talk about the GoPro.
Let's go to this next.
Well, I wanted to talk about the GoPro, and then
let's go to the GoPro then.
Well, I want to talk about the GoPro.
Sure, we'll do what you want to do.
And the setup that you can have with the GoPro. So you were talking about earlier. That fisheye look on that drift. So
yes,
if you go into the GoPro settings, you can get rid of the fisheye look on the GoPro simply by setting it. I think it's at linear.
It is
2.7 K footage, 60 frames, and it'll take that fisheye look away. Also, audio is not the best with the GoPro. This is an older one, so some of the newer ones are probably better than
the Max is good because it has 6 microphones.
Okay, but for the older ones and the lower
and even the newer ones, they just got the microphone on the front.
Right, and then like you said, I find that if it's not pointing to you, you can't hear it. But you can put an external mic, which this is a Rode Micro. It does a great job. You've got a little extender here to put on there. I personally use these for my in the woods kind of a selfie look, as far as like going to my stand, telling my story. And then once I'm in the stand or once I'm set up to turkey hunt, I set it up on this tripod or on a limb or something near me that's the camera that I want looking at me, looking at what's going on, because it's liable to catch me shaking or whatever. And that's a side of the story that a lot of people forget about. Everybody tells the story of what you're looking at, but then a lot of people take interest in, what went through your head and what was going on with you. And so, that's why I wanted to kind of touch on this. This right here is like I think it's a Joby, tripod, flexible tripod. And then it's just got, the Rode Micro on top of it with a little extender to hook it up to give it extended, audio. And then you can turn this around, face you if you're walking and you want to talk so people can see where you're going, but you want to hear you. And then you can also face it on you while you're in the stand or while you're setting up, or even if you're like when you're offshore fishing. This is a fantastic something that's rugged. You don't have to worry about tearing up. I mean, that was always my biggest thing for duck hunting and offshore fishing and stuff is, let me take this $2,000 camera on a boat with a lot of water and the anticipation of dropping it. These things are built now to where they can withstand all that. And so it gives you a little peace of mind. Not saying that this is disposable, but that being said, you can get in some tough situations and not be as concerned to go that extra mile to get that footage or get that shot that you want. Because if it does go down, it's not, a full 2 months worth of mortgage, so it's just a little bit easier. And
they do make a little buoy thing that you can clip on to the bottom there, so if you do drop in the water, it'll float back out.
Yeah, well, if you're offshore fishing, we've lost a Yeti Cup before, Jason, and we never saw it again. It was just gone. It fell right off the back of the boat and it was gone, and it floated, and we could see it float, but it was like turn around in a big ocean and look for a Yeti Cup. I don't think so, but nevertheless, so now that I got that out of the way, I want to touch on that because I feel like a lot of people are probably going to be walking out in a couple of weeks, and they're going to be holding these action cameras. That's going to be their number one thing, whether you got one for Christmas or whatever. those are fantastic. I do want to say, when you're using them, if you have the ability to have two, you can go pick up a used one. A lot of people are throwing these other ones away, so to speak, selling them for nothing, trying to get the best, the newest, and greatest, and all that good stuff. But two action cams go a long way as far as filming yourself and then filming what you're hunting or what you're doing with two different angles, and that can help tell that story. And I feel like majority of you are going to be doing that as turkey season comes in. Now, that being said, there are, and I have had a lot of interest into that next level. And for me, it was what Sean just picked up. That was kind of my first professional. I think they call it like a prosumer.
Prosumer, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of an entry level for a professional, but then it's on a consumer price base. So without any further ado, go ahead. That one's a Sony, right?
Yeah, this is a Sony. This was new. It was just under $2,000.
Okay.
But what I like about it is it's got the handle on it.
Yep.
And I don't have it, but it's got a shotgun mic.
Correct.
That'll go on here. And it's got two audios in, so I could have the shotgun mic, and I could also have an external
lavalier
wireless mic like going on. Like I've got a little wireless kit here. Of course, it's got the fold-out screen, so you can see, and you can turn it back, and you can interview yourself and whatnot. It's just very versatile. But for me, smaller is better.
Right.
Because I don't have a Sherpa.
Right.
I don't have somebody to haul my gear for me. So
right.
I'm carrying everything on my back. So,
but you did start off with this, right?
I started out with one. There was just a handy cam.
Okay.
There wasn't even HD.
Okay.
That I bought in Arkansas while I was out there for something. I can't remember, off of Craigslist from a lady.
I got you.
Who only used it like 3 times, and I got it on steel, and you'll find that with camera gear, people will buy stuff to film their kids and then they don't use it.
Correct.
And then you can pick it up on the cheap, and I got this one from a guy that was doing weddings.
Okay.
And needed a bigger camera. He thought small was better for him, and then he needed a larger camera with higher quality for what he was doing. And I got this on the cheap, so I saved about $600 on this one. So there are places on Marketplace, on Facebook sometimes, and on Craigslist. If you kind of know what you're looking for, you might be able to find a deal on a camera like this. This is big. You're gonna have to have a camera arm.
Correct. You will have to have a camera. I like filming with. The camera that's filming this, I like it. My handy cam is a Canon XA20. It is still a workhorse. It is tenfold. It is a strong camera. It can put up with a lot. It's been in like some light rain, some freezing rain. Now, the one that we're filming on, the actual podcast, it is a weather sealed, and my Canon XA20 is a weather sealed. That does not mean you can dunk it. It just means that for the most part, out in some light mist or something like that it can withstand that, and it's not just gonna completely kind of crap the bed on you. But I like them. Again, I think he's on site, and so he's hiking back, and he's moving around a lot more, so that compact and the lighter is better and everything like that works best for him. When I'm doing it, I find that I like the Handycam in the sense that, or my Canon, it has a lot of the autofocus stuff. It has a lot of and it can pick up a lot of stuff. So while they're out in the middle of the field playing, or when they're coming from a distance, I still got that sharp quality image. That's the build up for me.
That's right.
For some of that stuff. So I personally, if you're going to take that step, into, kind of, you're really taking it more serious and stuff like that, I usually go towards this. A lot of people will say, well, and especially if I say, well, look for a Canon XA20, they'll be like, oh, that's 1080. It's not 4K and all this stuff. But it is still, if you look it up, it is still considered one of the best cameras to film with. And you can find them all day, every day for next to nothing. I say next to nothing, but probably not much more than what you're paying for a brand new GoPro nowadays. So because they're used, now you got to be careful with that, because camera equipment can be finicky, and the right person that was using it for weddings probably very careful. The guy who's doing duck hunts probably a little bit rougher. So You got to kind of keep that in mind. But I'm a big fan of this style camera.
And it has a place in my arsenal. If I'm hunting in a blind, elevated blind or a ground blind, this is what I take now.
Oh yeah,
because I can reach out to a field. And when you're looking at these cameras, especially these that have different focal lengths built in to zoom in and out, you really want optical zoom. That's a key word for you. Optical zoom, not digital zoom, because optical means that the glass is doing the work.
Correct. And
digital zoom means that the software is doing it, and that's when you get some crappy imagery. This will be in my turkey blind on a tripod, filming Big Tom, and
for sure.
And it does really good for that. And I also use this when I'm blood tracking.
Okay. Well, seeing if it's like mine,
I can mount a light to the top.
Yes.
And then I can put it on wide angle and then hold it close to the ground. And so if you see some of my deer hunting videos where I'm blood tracking, I was using this camera for that.
Yeah, and it's got a good sensor in it. That's probably got a 1.5 inch or 1.25 inch.
Yeah, and the
sensor.
thing that drove me to this Sony's, it has image stabilization built in, but it's not digital. This one is mechanical, so the whole inside is moving, very similar to the new pro cameras, digital SLRs that have the built-in sensor that's moving. This one, if we turned it on and I held it like this and did this in front of you, you would see the inside moving around, the whole element in there moving. So
that's the only thing that when I did my last purchase, which caused me to go from Canon to Sony, was the image stabilization.
Yeah, hard to beat.
It is, and me knowing that I'm going to be walking around the woods and stuff, you keep in mind. But again, this is once you've decided you're going to take it to the next level, you want to spend that extra money, because again, like, you can find them for cheap, but if you was to buy these brand new, that's a $2,000 camera, right? So
at least,
yeah. So
that's with none of the accessories that we need, like the
correct. That's
the length C.
Yes, I got to say if I'm self filming, I've got I've got a Bear Zoom. I call it, that's the brand, but it allows me to zoom in without having to touch the camera and everything like that.
Just use your thumbs and finger.
And then when you add that, then you add a shotgun mic and everything like that. You add the lights and stuff. You've added another $1,000 onto it. So don't think that that's the end of it by just buying the camera, but it is a good start. So
the other side about this camera is it can be used for family stuff.
It can.
Not just hunting.
It's a good way to sell it to your wife.
It can be used for other things, family outings and whatnot. So try to look at it as what fits your lifestyle.
Very
true.
True.
And what you're trying to do, and invest your money where it will complement that. And it's not just I'm only going to use this for 3 months in the fall.
Correct. Yeah, and I find myself, I've gotten to the point now where I film a lot of birthday parties for my kids, and when we have like family vacations, I rent a lot of lenses and make them, make the best of taking pictures and learning more about my camera and so on and so forth. And you're absolutely right. And my son's playing t-ball now, so I find myself, I'm the parent that's out there filming, and they're like, would you like to coach? I'm like, no, I'm pretty rough on him. You might want to leave me over here and just play with this camera. But yeah, no, you're right. So it's a good tool that you can use for a lot of stuff with your personal life as well as your hunting life, and it's not like a boat, so to speak, which I know people use their boats year round, but you know what I'm saying.
That's
it's not something you're just going to use for a short period of time.
Then you got the big SLRs, the digital SLRs. This is kind of the rage. You see this on all the hunting shows. These guys are walking around with these cameras and they're flipping them out, the screens, and they're doing this and that. If you're a dedicated camera guy, this is a great tool. But if you're self-filming, this never leaves the house. For me, there's too many buttons, and if I'm bow hunting, there's no way I can manipulate all this with one hand and try to kill a deer.
I feel bad now.
So, however, if I'm scouting, and you saw that turkey tonight down there, I'm going to be scouting that rascal. I'm going to set up a blind. I'm going to use this camera and maybe that one, but I've got big long lenses that go on this.
Yep.
And that's the advantage over that one. And I have a 1-inch sensor on this where that one doesn't. So I'm going to get far greater image quality.
Yes.
Video and still images that I can use for my job with Mossy Oak Properties. And mount this on a tripod, and if I'm going to be stationary for a while, this is a great tool to have. But it's a business tool. This is something I didn't buy for personal use. I bought it for business, but I can use it for other things. This too could be used for on vacations, whatever. But in the scheme of things, it's very expensive, and the lenses aren't as well if you're doing quality glass on them.
It is. Now I will say, like I said, I feel bad that my deer hunt from this year and Jason's hunt, that was filmed with a very similar camera. This is the full frame, and mine is a crop sensor, so it is a little bit smaller sensor, a little bit more. It goes back to like
size matters.
Yeah, right. It does, but it goes back more to that prosumer style. So the camera that is filming this now is like this one, but a little bit more of a knockdown version. But you can still use the big expensive lenses, which I find, and you actually turned me on to them, is lens rental, and I rent that stuff, and so you can find and
you can rent cameras there too.
Oh, for sure. So
you can test something out before you buy it at lensrental.com. And I'm not being sponsored by them, but if they want to send me a gift certificate, I'll take it.
Yeah, right. And but if you get into that situation, I found that the early deer season, me and Jason went out scouting. We had some deer we wanted to see. They were in velvet. We didn't want to get close. I rented a big, long telephoto lens. I think it was a 100 to 400, and then I put a
size matters.
Yes, and then I put a multiplier on there, and that allowed us to sit 800 yards away, and not bother the deer, not bother the pattern, but just literally feel like we were right on top of them, and get those good pictures and those good video and stuff like that.
And you got to have a good tripod for that. I've got a 1.4 extender for my big lens as well, but you got to have a stable base so it's not shaking, because at that distance and with those lenses, you'll get some shaky footage if you're not careful.
But yeah, so you get into that stuff, and then this stuff can also be used for time lapse. Time lapse goes a long ways, but time lapse with a camera like this, like the one that's filming here, you can film moon shots, and you can film nightscapes, and you can see the stars, and you can see stuff that you'd never be able to see with any other type of camera, and the clarity's there and stuff like that. And so, like you were saying, it's not necessarily something to take in the woods, even though I do it. It's probably not, hopefully my wife doesn't listen to this, but it's not something to take in the woods on a daily and beat up and treat bad, because it is an expensive piece of equipment. But that being said, outside of your actual hunting, it can be used to really add a lot to the story that you're telling. If you had to wait the night up before, or even if it's just you're getting up, you're about to go offshore and fish and stuff, and you're packing that boat up, and you want that moon in the background, you want that where it just feels like the moon is bigger than the world itself. You can capture that with these type of cameras,
and you're not gonna be able to do it with a GoPro or even your phone.
No, and to be honest with you, unless you really, now again, it comes into more of an art, and really knowing your equipment, but it's tough to grab this camera and go out and then create that without knowing all the moving parts and knowing how to set the focus and the length and all that stuff. And so it gets into a lot of different stuff, and knowing what lens is good for what. There's not a lot. There are some that are good all around. There's a couple of them, but for the most part, I find that you usually find yourself wanting or needing about 3 different lenses, an up close,
a good wide angle, and then a general purpose like this one. This is a 24 to 105,
yep.
and then a longer lens, maybe up to 200 or 400.
Yeah, I think for the outdoors people, the goal right now, or the all the rage lens, is usually that 70 to 200.
Yeah.
And then that's a good one to get, and again, you can get these used. You can use Canon, you can use Sony, and they all have great clarity and a lot of stuff, and they are tools to be able to add to your story, and then that story becomes more enjoyable. So with that being said, let's move in. So you've got another tool on here that's used to add to the story, and that's a drone.
Yeah, this is a DJI Mavic Pro 2, and I use this a lot with my real estate business.
Okay,
it's invaluable to illustrate farms, and
for sure,
and whether it's video or still images. And it's very compact, as you can see. I'm folding it out. I can slap this in a small backpack and take it with me. It makes great B-roll for
It does.
hunting. I did some work for H.R. Carver. Shout out to Carver Brothers Turf. Did a little promo ad for him of him taking his, basically planting stuff in the ground, and then a guy ended up taking his son hunting it over that stuff.
Okay.
And so we did shots with the drone behind the tractors that's planting things. And then we went out to a cornfield that HR had set up and for hunting. It was during the fall. And I got overhead shot of them walking to their blind.
Right.
And then I had ground shots of them walking by me. So the drone just adds another level of storytelling that you can use.
It does.
But it, again, this is a prosumer level. They do make some lighter ones, smaller ones, less expensive ones. And they don't have to be this to do storytelling.
I think mine is the Mavic Air 2.
Yeah, it's
so
perfect.
and it does phenomenal.
It does. It's an awesome piece of equipment.
And that's one thing I noticed that everybody kind of wants. That's that thing. They're like, oh, can I get the drone footage? Or like, dude, can everybody? Anytime we're doing any type of filming for anybody, we do some stuff for, Conmans, and we do some stuff for Pure Adrenaline, which is down in Four Oaks for hogs and stuff. And the number one thing that I get from everybody is, can I get the drone shots? They've never seen their property from the air. They love that. They love that idea. They love that look. It really gives you a nice movement and kind of encompasses everything that you got going on, especially when you're in big fields or when you're in near swamps, and you can look down and look over that. One of the things I'll tell you, if you do get a drone, whether any of them, easy way to get some B-roll footage or footage to add, transition footage or any of that stuff, personally, on your beginner level, stay in straight lines. So anytime you get shaky and you want to turn or anything like that, the footage just does not look good. So I try to line up what I'm looking for, and then I face it, and then I just put that joystick straight forward, and then I fly in a straight line. If I'm doing a side shot, I literally just let it go. Even if I'm following a truck, there's a lot of settings where you can have these things follow the truck and all that stuff. But a lot of times, if the road curves and the drone's going straight, that little bit of movement adds a little bit of something to it. But you didn't do anything but make it go straight. But your truck itself is turning, right. And so it's a optical illusion.
A little different perspective.
Right. And so I will say that if you get a drone and you're trying to get any footage, a lot of stuff that is beginner level stuff is just stay in straight lines, whether it's straight forward, straight back, left, right, or even, I think with our shed video, that was one of the things that we did from way back, is the way we wrapped it up was it was just coming right off of the top of the shed, the last shed that we found in the field, and then just going straight up, and then that kind of give a good look. So they do add a lot of stuff to it. And then once you get into playing with them, I mean, you can circle your area, you can circle a truck or your stand or whatever. You can play with them a lot, but just that, don't overthink that first little bit if you're new to it. Like I said, I find that you get better shots going straight. So, and then I think you use a lot of it for photography. So
I do a lot of still photography on listings, and even here at the farm. I'll fly over my food plots and take a picture of them like right now, and then I'll take that photo and then I'll draw the shape that I want to plant my Egyptian wheat and other stuff. And each year I kind of change it out. And for scouting, you get over a field like or food plot like I have, I can see the trails where the deer are coming in and where they've beat it down over the winter, and then I mark that on the map as well. So there are some scouting tools or uses for this tool that could be. Just be aware that during hunting season, it is illegal to use that to scout for game.
Correct. Now, I will say, as far as your video and your editing and stuff, to add a little something to it, a simple picture of maybe the field that the deer, the turkey, or whatever come out in, you take that picture of that, and then you can draw on, depending on your software and stuff, you can draw arrows and add stuff that can say that would connect somebody where they come out of this, and then maybe they see that there's a funnel, and then other people can learn from that. When you say, I hear that a lot, they come out of this funnel, they come out of this draw, they walked in on this little thing, but nobody knows that. And so if you've got a drone, you can take that picture later at a later date, come back later, take the picture, and then add that as you're telling your story to kind of encompass where the animal come from, and then maybe others can learn from that as far as, you know, what may have caused them to come from that or what encouraged them to come from that. So other than that, audio, don't forget about the audio. So
Yeah, we talked about your Rode mic on there, and then I've got these wireless Rode mics that, you know, I can plug into the phone. I can plug it into one of these cameras. You know, it can clip on your lapel. You can clip it onto your hat. You know, a lot of different uses for this. A lot of, and I'm guilty of this on some of my videos. The audio is for the interviews and stuff, for the post harvest.
yeah,
You know, that's really important audio. And sometimes the weather conditions, either with this camera or another one, don't allow you to get good quality audio. I got the little hunt I did out here when I first got my 360 camera. And I went out that day and opened day a muzzleloader and shot a doe in the game lands with a bow. Everything was great, but the worst part of that whole video is me talking about that harvest with that deer, and I was so far away
that you couldn't pick up the
really
audio.
couldn't pick me up. And I tried to do some stuff in post, but it still didn't save it. So now this is an invaluable tool to make sure I get good audio quality for those things.
Well, another thing that I find, especially starting with, again, I spoke to, unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of GoPro's audio. Tactican, I don't know about them. How's their audio?
About the same.
I mean, you got to keep in mind you're packing a lot into a very small frame, so they're not going to be able to get it all right. But the action cam and the footage and the quality of the footage is there, and I find that with the GoPro in good light, I can zoom in on that, and it's great. But the audio is not always the best, and even with some of the bigger cameras and the more expensive cameras, because you're self-filming, you don't have headsets like this. See, if I was filming somebody, I've either got earbuds in, I've got something in so that I'm hearing what they're saying, so I know to adjust or tell them to turn around or do something, or, you know, make that slight change to get that audio. But when you're self-filming, the chances of you doing that is slim to none. I always say test your stuff before you go out. Make sure you've got everything set up and you listen to it, but that doesn't always mean that you're going to have everything ready, right? So
That's right.
I've definitely, and that's another mistake I've made. I've gotten back, had the hunt of a lifetime, everything's there, and I'm missing 10 minutes audio where it's just me moving my mouth and you can't hear anything. And then I'm like, oh God, you know, but you try to work with it. Again, you get into stuff like that. I used to be very, like we said at the beginning, I would be worried about that and throw that footage away or not use it. Now I would literally just film myself talking again and then dub that in behind it and just say audio went out and this is what I was saying and so on and so forth, and add it in. And people who are self-filming, they can actually understand that, and like I said, it could keep somebody else from making another mistake.
Well, you're going to make mistakes, and it's just,
For sure.
again,
I'm still making them.
it's yeah, you coming here tonight might have been one. I'm just kidding. You know, it gets back to expectation. Don't, you know,
Do what you enjoy.
Yeah, you can make this so technical. I'm kind of a camera geek, always have been since I picked up a camera in high school. So I'm always into the latest and greatest, but I've got a lot of years of knowledge. But you know, you don't have to have all this to make a good story. And just remember who it's for. It's for you. It's for your family. It's not for the masses on Facebook and
Correct.
You know, and that has grounded me, and in my production, I don't take it as seriously because I was trying to be real serious for whatever reason. Looking back, I was being stupid, but now it's more. I want to tell a good story. I want the animals on the wall to have. They're dead now, but I want them to have a life,
Right.
to be remembered.
Share the experience.
That's right,
Yeah.
and inspire other people to get outdoors and hunt, or
For sure.
or appreciate, you know, something they've seen on my you know. I mean, some of my best stuff is B-roll. You know, I've got an owl sipping out of one of my water holes. That's one of my best pieces of footage that I've got.
I think the best footage I had was, and did not mean to do this, but I was filming some squirrels sitting there eating corn, red hawk right on top of him. And I'm like, I mean,
awesome.
how do you go back? You'll never be able to get that again. But you know, and not plan it at least. But yeah, that was some of the best stuff, and I didn't even mean it. I didn't mean to get it, and it was super cool and stuff. But just looking back on it, that's something that I was able to see, and then I'm able to share with. And like you said earlier, you were like, you know, you don't need all this to tell a good story or do all that. But let me just clarify too, you could have all this and still not tell a good story. Yeah, so you know, that's a little bit. That's a piece of humble pie that I eat daily, because I make I make videos and stuff, and I've got a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort wrapped up in it, and there's still people on there that are like, thumbs down, I don't like this, you could have done this, and they're still just not enjoyable. And so when Sean says do it because you want to do it and do it, that really needs to set in with you, and that really needs to, if you don't take nothing away from any of this, just know that whenever you film this stuff and whenever you do this stuff, do what you're doing for you and enjoy it. And whenever you stop enjoying it, stop doing it. You know what I mean? Because if you're enjoying it, then who cares if somebody on the internet on the other side of a screen with a computer and a keyboard likes it or not. So,
and you don't have to share it with us. You
no
know? I mean, you would be amazed at how much footage I have on my phone and other stuff I've done that I haven't even put out there.
Hasn't even made it to,
you know, just because, one, it's just stuff for me, and it might be silly to somebody else, and you know, but it's not for them.
Right.
It's for me, and it will be in this room on a computer, and again, when I'm dead and gone, they can come in here and listen to all my stupid stories out in the field.
Well, I got to say I've enjoyed it. So with that being said, we're gonna do the last little segment. We're gonna wrap it up. But the number one question, probably the number one question, because everybody thinks they've got the cameras figured out, they've got everything else figured out. They know, I know. What software do you use? And I will tell you right now, we do not use the same software. So I know that he's on a different.
He's smarter than me.
I don't know about that, but we use different stuff. So I'll let you go first, and then I'll speak on what I use. Well,
when I first started trying to figure out editing software, I started out with Sony Vegas.
Okay.
And it's a paid for, it's a subscription now, but back in my day, you had to buy the software download it, and then pay for upgrades and all that stuff. Everything now is by subscription. I transitioned from that because it didn't have some of the things that other software had, and I went to Adobe Premiere.
Okay, and that's a popular one.
It is
amongst a lot of people that edit stuff professionally. That is a very, it can be very intricate. So
it can be, but it also has some easy settings. So it's kind of like you got different levels of Photoshop for images. You've got
correct
full Photoshop, and then you got the photographer version, which just is minor adjustments. But that, run it on a PC. And when I started doing some drone photography and videography on 2.7K and 4K, it would kill that computer.
I'll just bring it to a crawl.
Yeah, bring it to a crawl. So you either had to upgrade the computer or laptop, and then you're also worried about storage space.
Correct.
For your projects. So I came across Luma Touch.
Okay.
Luma Fusion, which is it's on Apple. And I do it on my iPad.
Okay.
And I use a Apple Pen.
I like that.
Or pencil, and all kinds of tutorials on there. It's a paid for subscription. So easy to use, and it will handle 4K on an iPad like nobody's business. It doesn't skip a beat.
Awesome.
And I found that I really like using that more than any other software. And so now all of my raw video gets saved to a hard drive on the web, so I can pull it down into my iPad, and then I edit it there and put it all together. And that's what I'm using now.
Okay. Well, seeing I didn't know about that. I like that. I will say,
and also you get the app for the iPad. It gets on your phone too, so I can do the same thing on my phone that I can do on an iPad.
Awesome. There you go. That's good. And a lot of you are going to already have if you've got GoPro or you've got, I think Tacticam comes with their own software. Yes.
They do have an app, but it's not. It's for controlling the.
Okay.
At least what I know, what I have, the Tacticam app is for controlling the camera. Since it doesn't have any settings,
Okay.
you control it all via Bluetooth.
Now GoPro,
Has
their
it?
app, their stuff works very well. And it also, I could be wrong. I think it's what you have to use for the 360. Correct. So if you buy a 360 GoPro, you have to use the GoPro app to view and edit, and then once you edit those clips, then you can slide those into something else and then put them together in a different one. But to actually edit the 360 part,
They do have a viewer now for PC.
oh, okay.
They do, but it's not as robust
Right.
as the iPad Apple version.
I gotta say the GoPro stuff on their stuff for the Apple, you can literally just take all the footage and look all around, and it's amazing. It's fantastic.
Well, I'll tell you, the future of my filming lies in 360.
For sure. I mean, it definitely provides. It gives you a second. It can be one camera, right? You put one camera on your actual bow to show what you shoot, and that's just kind of a fail safe because
if
you're
you-
always gonna.
If you watch some of my videos from the last 2 years, that you'll see some 360 imagery, and that 360 camera's been out for almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in September. They're coming out with a new one in September, and I will be buying it and adding it to it. But the other cool thing about GoPros is
The remote.
the remotes,
Yeah.
and this is going to be my go-to turkey setup this year.
Okay.
I'm going to have a 360 out there where I'm going to kill this bird. And that, when I turn it on, it's going to pick up
Everything from any
everything.
direction. It doesn't matter.
So if that turkey's coming here, I don't have to worry about putting a camera on
There you
it. I've already got a camera on it.
Yep.
And then I'll have a GoPro inside the blind with me, filming me. And then I'll have the big one. So I'm going to be
There you
running 3 cameras.
There you go.
For close-in, high-quality footage, action shot, and me getting the jitters and excitement in the blind, and then the storytelling of
Well, in the field
that gobbler coming in, and it's going to be ground level
There you go.
too. And I'm still after that behind the animal shot
Yeah, I am too.
where that Luminox.
I've got one. It was a small doe. It was a long time ago. The GoPro was on the other side, and the coolest part about it is when the deer. I shoot it with a bow. When the deer runs by, there's a leaf directly in front of the GoPro, and a drop of blood hits the leaf, and you get to see it kind of, and you're like, holy smokes. And I had to watch it like 10 times to figure it out.
The Tim Wells move there.
Yeah, right. But so you, what was the name of that software again?
It's Luma Touch, Luma Fusion.
LumaTouch, and he uses that on an iPad. Now, what I will tell you is, Apple is geared towards video and music. They are that's what they're geared to. They're not great with sales and setting up, business work and stuff like that. They can be, but they're just not geared.
No.
They're geared towards more of a creative side of things, and so they're gonna have more available. I use Final Cut Pro 10. And it has been very robust from the very beginning, and it still is. It provides a lot of different stuff and a lot of unique stuff where I can add a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I mean, right down to there's like a Ken Burns effect where you're zooming in as something's going on. There's a lot of different slow-mo and speed up, and there's a lot of different options there. Again, it can get pretty crazy, but the thing that I like about it is that Final Cut Pro is absolutely, you can get in it, you can make it as crazy as you want it to be, or you can keep it as simple as you want. You can literally you can just put clips with a transition and a clip and a transition, and then throw some music underneath it. You're done. I mean, within 30 minutes, you can have a 15-minute video together and no problem. Or you could really get crazy and have different levels of audio and a bunch of different levels of clips and tie them all together, and you can make it whatever you want to make it. But the problem with that is you have to have Apple products, and it doesn't. I could be wrong, because it may work on the iPads now, but I think you got to have
no, I think you got to have a Mac.
right. So you got to have an iMac, or you got to have the
And I
iPad.
hate Mac.
I gotta say, I love them. So I love my iMac.
I'm a PC laptop kind of guy.
That's that, or a MacBook. And a MacBook, and I'll go ahead and warn you, if you get into the smaller MacBook, like the MacBook Air and stuff like that, it'll bring it to a crawl. So you're trying to do stuff, and anytime you're uploading any of this stuff, if you have the ability to plug in to your internet, just do it. Don't try to send. I have literally through Wi-Fi tried to upload a 10-minute video and waited 3 days for it to come on because it's just searching. But as soon as I plug it in, it's a 5-minute process. It's up and it's gone. And I'm not saying that everybody has that ability, because you were saying earlier, even out here, you're kind of limited at what you can do. But if you are in a situation where you can, or maybe you go in, you're at work or you're at a friend's house or something, if you've got everything edited, you can go in, you can hit upload to YouTube. It's a great way to just plug in, have that strong connection, because it is the difference between 8 hours and 8 minutes. So just keep that in mind as well. And then with that being said, one thing I know we did not touch on, and I'm telling you right now, I don't care what camera you have, I don't care what you do, buy batteries. Invest in batteries. He said something about a backup battery. That's always good, but in the middle of it, batteries and storage. SD cards, make sure you can, nothing sucks worse.
That's a great point.
Than filming everything and an SD card filling up. A lot of times I find a lot of people have problems transferring one SD card to their computer or whatever. They don't want to lose it and stuff, so multiples always goes a long ways. Some of this stuff can handle 128 gig, 256 gig. Some of it cannot. And then when you get into the SD cards, it gets they need to be rated for the camera it's in. That's right. You need to get into, there's a lot of different stuff.
And I would tell you, buy the best. Don't skimp on them.
Yeah. SD cards
you can go cheap. You can buy them at Dollar General. Don't do that. My drone is very finicky on the type. This camera is super finicky.
Yep.
We talked about, you're worried about missing that once in a lifetime event.
Correct. The worst thing you can do is capture it and not be able to move it over to your computer and only watch it back on your camera or something along those lines.
Something crazy.
It'll make you cry, man. But I've been there and I've done that, and
I've had choppy footage on the drone because it wasn't recording. It didn't write as fast as it needed to.
So 9 times out of 10, when you're looking at this stuff, make sure that your SD card is prepared for the camera you're in. A lot of these things will actually tell you what to use. Just use it. I know that they'll be like, well, there's other ones and it's, $15, and the one you're talking about, the one the camera suggests, it's $50. Just buy the $50 one. Don't spend $500 on a camera and then cheap out on an SD card.
That's like putting radials on a Ferrari.
Yeah,
you need racing slicks, man.
Yeah, just do it right. Some things, some corners you can cut, some you can't. SD card's not one.
And what you're talking about, SD cards, redundancy and filming capability. I'm all the time going out at least with 2 cameras and my iPhone. So if one goes down, I've got I can move one GoPro to the main, whatever it is that's more important, the most important. So having some redundancy there is also important too when you're heading to the field, because it's happened to me more than you can imagine. I get out there and batteries are dead and I didn't bring the charger, or something, the SD card's full. How many times have you made that error?
A lot.
I thought I'd emptied it, and I get out there and now everything's full and I'm screwed. So
I erased pictures and I left video on there, and I did. And I've gotten to the point now where I actually I label my cards as to what camera they go in, and then I've got ones for my family, and then I've got ones for Southern Release, and this one goes in the A6600, and this one goes in the GoPro, this one goes in the Rode. It's the Rodecaster. I already say I'm on it. Funny name, but everything takes different stuff, and I try to keep them organized and try to keep them in a safe spot. But then, like you were saying with the hard drives, get your hard drives, learn how to back up everything on that, make sure that it's there, watch it, put it in your software, make sure you can watch it again before you delete it, because once it's gone, and nothing is worse. I usually wait until I've got the entire video together, and then edited and then backed up the entire card. And then once I watch all that and I'm happy with that, then I'll erase that card, but not until, because I've made that mistake in the past. I've literally accidentally thrown away great footage, and it just hurt my heart. So,
and last thing for me on all this is practice with it before you go on your hunt.
Yes.
If use it in your daily life or whatever. If you're working, to pull it out your camera and video yourself at work. Get to learn that camera and get to see how you are seeing things through that lens. And then when you go hunt, you're very familiar with your gear. Your settings are already pre-done, or you know how to change them on the fly. The last thing you want to be doing is worrying about a daggum camera when you got the harvest of a lifetime.
Correct.
And maybe you're not the one harvesting it. Maybe it's your son, daughter, wife,
right,
grandson, daughter. That's when it's most important, and you want to get that shot.
Well, for me and Jason, whenever we set up a stand, we like to go ahead and put a base on that camera for the camera arm. We set all that stuff up, have it ready to go. And then if you don't have that and you're self-filming, Sean's right, go out and practice. Even if it's on a tree, if you're running one of the bigger cameras, you're going to have a camera arm. Go ahead and practice in your own yard on a tree where you can practice setting that camera base up or practice setting that arm up. Get that camera in there, because nothing's worse than going in early and then running a deer off with being clumsy and making a bunch of noise and stuff like that. And I've done a bunch of that too, same as running them all off as I'm trying to break down for the evening, because I'm making a bunch of noise and I'm tearing everything down. And it's just, I've gotten to the point where I leave bases in trees, but that's just me. You might not, maybe you have to hop around and you don't have that luxury. But nevertheless, if you are using the bigger cameras, like you said, tree arms are a must. Good tripods are a must. Stability is everything. And if you're using the smaller cameras and the action cameras, just make sure that what that, a lot of times you can set the camera up, look on the app on your phone, make sure that you can see what that camera sees prior to something coming in, because you hate for that thing to be pointing at the grass and then you're not paying attention, or it's pointing and all it sees is the top of your bill or something like that. So set up and practice with it is absolutely key. So, but with that, I think we're about done. I will say, if you like this kind of stuff, this is the first time I've always wanted to do something and kind of talk about the gear and talk about the uses of it, but I've also never felt like I was on a professional level enough to be giving anybody advice. But that being said, I do know that I have made enough mistakes to hopefully keep you from making some of the
wisdom is always good to impart.
Absolutely. And so what I will say is, if you like this podcast and you enjoy this type of stuff, comment below. And if there's something you want to see more in depth, I can do a video on maybe smaller pieces of gear and really go into depth of the settings and the uses for it, and give some side-by-side comparisons. I just don't know what you all want to see and what you don't want to see, and I don't want to bore you or get too involved, because there's a lot of channels out there like that. But I have had the question asked enough to where I felt like it was worth addressing, especially with deer or with turkey season being right around the corner. And I know a lot of people are going to go out there, and so if you can listen to this and you take away from this and you're able to succeed because of it, let me know that too, because if I'm able to help you, that makes me feel good, and it makes me enjoy what I'm doing and help me continue to do what I'm doing. So with that being said, you got anything else?
I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you. It's been too long, and if I can help anybody out, or if you get a lot of questions maybe on GoPro setup or something, and we wanted to get together and collaborate on something, I'd be more than happy to do just a segment on certain types of gear, so we could break it down a little bit more in depth, because you could spend a half a day on either one of these pieces. Correct. Very easily.
Well, we could easily get lost in it. So
I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate what you're doing with the podcast. I think it's a refreshing thing that's needed out there for some real average Joe guys that are just doing it for themselves. And appreciate you listening and watching, and it's been great, man.
All right, I appreciate it. Until next time, y'all remember it's all about release. And Sean, do not fail me. Go ahead, do a shameless plug. Tell me about Mossy Oak Properties. Sign it off with a "We'll see you in the field." I want to hear the whole friggin' 9. Let's go.
Well, this is Sean Maloy, your Central North Carolina Mossy Oak Properties land specialist and gamekeeper. And I appreciate you joining me at Patriots Landing. And as usual, I'll see you in the field.
That's right.
And you on my cameras.
There you go.